Hello and welcome to the Cloud Blue Podcast post-match reaction sponsored by NordVPN. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by Matt Kendrick as Aston Villa are going to Wembley. Hey, get in.
I've got another prop. Wait a minute, just having a drink of this. Oh, look! Our name's on the cup. Look, our name is on the cup.
Oh, that's why we're a couple minutes late. You were preparing that?
It was, yeah. I was doing my arts and crafts. I have to do this tradition now. I don't know what I'll do at Wembley in the next round, but Wembley, bloody hell.
Yeah,
I'm not singing it yet.
No, I did toy with the idea of shall I do case or Arsenal at the start of this one after our PSG version a couple of weeks ago. I'll save that for now, maybe at the end. Just good fun, isn't it? I was very much confident that we were going to go through. Before kick-off, I was not concerned in the slightest. I remember getting a little bit of criticism from the press pack, you lot out there, for celebrating the draw against lower league opposition away from home, but the easiest draw that we could have had, and has been proven with a 3-0 comfortable victory. First half, pretty boring and uneventful, but as soon as we clicked into gear in the second, the game was done after the first goal. And yeah, a trip to Wembley awaits in, what is it, about less than a month, isn't it? It's something like the 19th or the 20th of April, I think. And it's Crystal Palace, which is already splitting the fan base of, Palace, God. Or, well, it's only Palace, could have been worse. And we'll get through all that as we go. Did you enjoy the game, what we've just watched?
Yeah, I did. I felt a lot on it, to be honest. It felt like a kind of a TV spectacular of old in the build up to it. Not that I watched much, just in terms of me sitting down and thinking, well, most weeks in the Premier League, I know we've not got this in the Champions League now, we've got the jeopardy of knockouts, but most weeks you're really invested in winning, but if you don't win, you can make up for it the next game. Yeah. You can't do that in the FA Cup, can you? So I got a lot of kind of butterflies on it, but yeah, I don't think Villa were ever really in danger. And it's funny because I was one of the ones when you and John were getting, wet in your pants, so to speak, about it being Preston, thinking, well, hang on, let's just keep it calm. And then I can't work out because you and I'm thinking, well, it doesn't matter. We're in the semi-finals. If you're going to go and win it, beat anybody. So yeah, I thought it was a very professional performance. I thought, I know we've had the international break and we've had, I say, a rest. There's lots of players been out on international duty, but I'm really, really pleased that Emery decided to go strong with it.
Yeah,
I've got a lot of games coming. The fixture list in the next few weeks he's pretty full on. But I'm glad he just thought, let's get the job done, and then if we get the job done, we can make some changes and rest some legs at the end.
Yeah, it's funny you started that point there with like, I can't understand what your point was or something like that, and then you went and sounded like a robot. So none of us heard your first part of that point either. You told me before we started that your Wi-Fi is not very good, and 3 minutes in, we've already seen evidence of that. Typical.
I got something. Whatever I said was really profound anyway, so you'll never know.
I'm sure, yeah. I think a trip to yours is due to assess your Wi-Fi situation again. So if that continues, we're in big trouble. Yeah, I was always comfortable. There's always that little bit of doubt of, well, yeah, if it was as simple as the favourite wins every time, then football would be very boring. And to be fair, during the first half, there were a couple of little scares, nothing that I was too concerned about. And even I think, obviously this is easy saying with hindsight that we've won the game, but even if Palace, I'll get to them, even if Preston had have scored, I'd have still thought, well, we've got the whole of the second half to come back into this. Like, I'm not going to kind of be too worried even if they score. So I was always pretty comfortable. And I just couldn't see a situation, much like the Bruges game, of us not getting through to the next stage. I just couldn't envisage a situation of Villa not being at Wembley, given the level of opposition. So all due respect to Preston, I thought were decent, defended well, made it difficult for us, and that was on them to do that. And they're not just going to roll over, are they? They've got a potential day trip to Wembley awaiting for a victory as well, and it would be a massive thing for them. So, yeah, they're making it difficult for the first half and then ultimately succumbing to Villa's quality in the second with a couple of quick-fire goals from Rashford is, that's just the way of the modern game, isn't it? Villa's squad is much better because they operate at a higher level and quality outshone in the end.
Yeah, it's funny, wasn't it? Because I think the commentators were saying how resolute Preston were, and probably didn't show much ambition in the first half, but that enabled them to perhaps get a foothold in the game for a couple of moments. But and all of a sudden, I found Dion Dublin's half-time analysis really interesting. Almost saying, "Oh, why are Villa committing to this? Why are they? If there's a team who's pressing high against you," I'm thinking, I'm not being funny, but Villa have been able to play through the press, or at least continue to try attempting to play through the press against Bayern Munich, across through all of Europe, against some really top Premier League opposition. That is the point. That is the point. We back ourselves to do it. And kind of so it proved, because Preston did try and get more adventurous second half. And as soon as that happened and they left any kind of space in behind them, we were able to pick the way through it. So I just found it strange analysis, really. It was fairly comfortable, wasn't it? When we got on the halfway line, on the half turn, and the more they committed forward, it was just a matter of time before we were going to score. Even then, I was a little bit annoyed that we didn't stick that one away moments later, when I think Rashford's did a brilliant bit of footwork and a cutback, and Rodgers man to find someone on the line. But it was a matter of time. We probably could have won 4 or 5 if we'd have really wanted to kind of crank it up towards the end. But very professional performance.
Yeah, the way the 2 goals come from Rashford, the penalty so soon after the first one, just absolutely kills it. That there's no need to overexert yourself from that point. Preston, even if they score 1, Villa could easily just go and score the third and kill it off with 20 minutes to go. So those 2 goals kind of killing the game there and then. And that was the time to make a couple of changes. Watkins comes on, McGinn comes on. Did Rodgers play the whole game, by the way? I got distracted towards the end of the game, but he was on a yellow card and would have missed the semi-final, which obviously he didn't get. But as soon as the second goal goes in, I was thinking, get Rodgers off. Don't risk it.
He did come off, didn't he? I think he come off.
Can't remember.
When we put Marlon... we put Marlon, McGinn and Tielemans on. No, we put Marlon, McGinn and Onana on, didn't we? Yeah. And then Asensio, I can't even remember.
Doesn't matter.
Asensio, Tielemans and Rodgers came off, didn't they? I think.
Yeah, Zach says came off for Marlon. That's that then. Done. Good. It was just one of those things, a very professional, very comfortable game. I was never really under threat. I was a little bit not scared about the very early penalty shout, but kind of like, ooh, was that one? And it wasn't, but just enough to think, everything that's said pre-game about things can change in football very quickly, like a red card or a penalty or something like that. That, if you do get that early scare and Preston did score, that would have felt different. But yeah, not a penalty. And ultimately, as you said, Villa's quality outshone. And it's one of those where I always find these episodes a little bit difficult, because I don't really know how much we need to analyse each kind of segment of Villa's game, or every different chance that happened throughout the game, because we won comfortably and I expected us to. So it's almost like, let's just look forward to Palace and Brighton now, because it's Preston's done, isn't it? 10 minutes into this. All right, let's move on. Do you feel the same? Or is that just me?
I've only come prepped to talk about Preston. I haven't been able to prep any further than that. I think because I'm a natural born pessimist where Aston Villa's concerned. I did actually think, most fans, I say most, but some fans would think, well, Preston have got like eight players missing or something like that.
Yeah.
A goalkeeper who played less football than Scott Carson in the last 2 or 3 years, we've been told, and this kind of stuff. I thought, well, yeah, that does sound like they're down on the luck. Definite Preston win. But I think I perhaps underestimate this new Aston Villa of finding, just doing what they're supposed to more often than not, and quite a bit extra than what they're supposed to as well. On top of that, I thought the quality of the goals was brilliant. I'm just trying to think how the Rashford goal came about. I think it was it Kamara into Ramsey?
Kamara into Ramsey and then ball through to Dean.
Yeah, and it was just a class finish. And I mean, do you think that because Asensio's been on pens lately, hasn't he? Do you think that was just a go on then, Rashford, you got a bit of confidence, stick another one away? Or
I think so. I think you've got your first goal. It's nice to, I think, I can't remember, I don't know what the days were, but I have seen him. I think it's 15 games before this one since his last goal, obviously for Man United. So to get the first one, it's like London buses, isn't it? You wait so long for the first, and the second appears out of nowhere. Just go and get the second as well. Like don't let it become a thing for, well, it's another 5 games till he got his second one. Well, no, he got his second one a couple of minutes later. How long till he gets his third is a different matter, and you don't really talk about that. So get your first, get your second. You got some confidence, stick it away. What a penalty, by the way. that did have me a little bit of all like the kind of nervousness around today. Rashford's run up was a bit like, oh no, he scored, obviously great, but don't like that.
That's what I'm worried about. I was worried about, you've just scored your first and got your confidence back. You'll be typically if you're going to blaze it over now or something. But no, it was class. I think it was a bit of a fluky pen, to be honest. I think
I thought it was blatant.
He caught him. I just thought thought if Preston were under any illusions, they knew that then it was game over. But yeah, it was just great to see him in that kind of form, and we've seen a lot of it.
He's played well since coming to Villa and got a handful of assists, but that goal was becoming a little bit of a thing, becoming a talking point of if he keeps playing, how long is it going to take? So the fact that that's done now, if he can start a little bit of a run of not scoring in every game, but if he scores another 6 or 7 for the rest of these remaining games, and they're important goals that win us matches to get into Europe or win a Wembley semi-final or beat PSG, like there's consequences that come with goals now. It's not just like, oh, he's got a goal, that's good, but there's still 30 games to go. It's like if he scores now, it's the chance of affecting the game and actually doing something.
Yeah, I mean, I came around to your way of thinking that, even when it was still 0-0 at half time, I was pretty convinced we were going to go and win it. If you can win it fairly comfortably, win it touch wood injury free, and give some of your players a chance to have a rest, and you can get Marcus Rashford on the goal sheet and boosting his confidence, it's a pretty successful day at the office. Now, I've mentioned this to you, Dan. I need to call you Jan then. That's my mother-in-law. I mentioned this to you, Dan. I have devised a new Marcus Rashford chant. I'm not going to do it now. No spoilers. But I'm going to do I'm going to do a voice note soon with half a dozen new chants that I expect to be sweeping the Holt End and Wembley very soon. So, I'm not going to spoil it for you yet.
I can just hear the collective sound of 200 people taking their headphones off. We don't want to hear that. Stay tuned for Villa Voice Notes coming to you soon of Matt Kendrick's more singing. We should just talk about something differently because they all feature some kind of musical element. Stay tuned for that one. Loads of content coming up, by the way. I was thinking about this before today. Obviously, April is going to be so busy with, I think it was 7 games in 21 days or something, with the PSG games, midweek Premier League games. At some point in April now, there will be a Wembley semi-final as well. So that's another one in there. Well, not another one, because that will displace an existing Premier League game that would have been played that weekend. So, 7 games, 8 games. It's a lot of football to get through and a lot of episodes for us to cover, which is, this is what you want, isn't it? When footballers say about it, this is what you play for, to play in these competitions. This is what you want for podcasts. You don't want to be talking about being on the beach at this point in the season and nothing to play for. There's so much still going on. Even the race for Europe in the Premier League positions is still something to play for. Whether what level of European competition is obviously up for debate, but a Wembley semi-final against Crystal Palace, which again Villa, despite their recent form against them, should be the favourites for that with the squad that we have. And the PSG game is, to some, a bit of a free hit because of the level of the opposition, but also again you play for a semi-final of the Champions League. If you can get through that, it's a lovely position to be in. Getting into April now, with still so much to play for. Something that we're not used to.
Yeah, I'm a bit fatigued, mate. I wish the authorities would look after us a little bit better. If I've got to go back to the well after this and sing my Villa voice notes in the next couple of days, I do think we need a mid-season kind of summer sunshine break in Dubai. But I'll speak to the man who controls the expenses.
I was going to say, can we get that on expenses?
Yeah, I've just spoken to him and we can't do that, I'm afraid. So tap water's all round.
I was a little bit surprised by the starting lineup. I expected us to go strong, though. We spoke about this on the preview about some fans calling for let's take this seriously. I always thought we would. With Villa having a pretty much clean bill of health besides Ross Barkley, whatever combination of players, apart from probably changing the goalkeeper. If Onana had started or Marlon or whatever, yes, they've not played a lot, but they're still good quality players at this level. So I always expected us to go strong. I mean, this is probably almost the problem with preview content, in that it's all guesswork. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen. You predict an 11 or predict a scoreline. But I was saying, when McGinn's fit, he's important to us, and he plays these kind of games, kind of dragging us through. Ollie Watkins, well, obviously he'll play. So when neither of those were in it, I was a little bit like, oh, God, that's typical. I know Watkins is just coming back from his injury, but the likes of McGinn tend to play in these kind of games, don't they, when we almost need to raise our level and have somebody to lead us through it. So for him to kind of not be in the 11, kind of almost as a roundabout way, proves the depth of squad that we've had, that there's better options than someone like that, and at the bench now looks incredible.
Yeah, this probably says more about me, but I didn't even realise McGinn wasn't there until I saw him come on as a sub. No, that's not supposed to be horrible, but we didn't miss him in the fact that and sometimes it's a massive cliche, but sometimes you can say, oh well, you need British players in there to understand what the FA Cup means and that kind of thing. But I felt it was a fairly, it was professional, efficient performance. But again, cliche, but if you go to a championship club away in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, you're going to have to match up physically as well in terms of putting yourself about and stuff. And I thought I've just seen somebody, King81 in the comments, talking about Kamara. Kamara needs giving the keys of Villa Park. I think I've read somewhere, it might have been the same guy saying that, or same woman, saying that the best thing Gerrard ever did for us was sign Boubacar Kamara and that kind of thing. And I thought he was just like me and my son were sitting in the front room watching it today, and it was just some of the ways he moves his feet so quickly when he's in tight space, and you think, well, okay, go that side of the player. He can just adjust so quickly in real time, and I think he's it won't be the first time we've eulogised about him, but I thought he was class again today. Even in those little moments when you thought, well, actually, Preston going to get a little bit of a look in, he's always the protective blanket. He's always the one who comes and mops up, but not just mops up by sticking the ball in the stands, mops up by winning the ball back and getting us back on the front foot again.
Yeah, and it's what we've said before. Villa are not reliant on players in the sense of Jack Grealish and Dean Smith. If Villa are going to win, it's only down to him. But the likes of Martinez or Kamara are players that if they're not there, all of a sudden Villa look totally different. And there's no kind of surprise that when Kamara is back in the side, Villa play better. This is probably a perfect segue into our man of the match segment. So I would assume he's in the top 3. It's everybody's favourite section. It's time for the Man of the Match award, and we're going to pick our top 3 in order. And if there wasn't 3 good players, it's a bit of tough isn't it? Now, there's probably not loads of selection here, I don't think, despite a 3-0 performance. It's not one where you can pick out 6 or 7 brilliant players as a man of the match contender because of the kind of almost routine nature of we went through the motions and won the game in the second half. I don't think you'll pick any defenders because we've not been threatened. So that already narrows it down quite a lot. I think Kamara would be in there. Rashford scored twice, so he'd be in there. That'd be 2 of my 3. Have you got another suggestion besides Ramsey?
Oh, well, not now. Not now you've said that bloody one now. So bronze would be Ramsey. Silver would be the Boob. Yeah. And gold would be Rashford. So I don't know. Is that tally with yours? Well, it does because you've just said it.
Yeah, they'd be the 3. They'd be the 3. I think you put Rashford top just because he scored the 2 goals and deservedly gets that place. Kamara and Ramsey is a bit of a toss-up. I mean, Dean got 2 assists. There are a few people in the comments have pointed out, so he might be in with a shout. But I don't know. There's a few moments where I thought his final ball left a lot to be desired. Dean, he's a good, reliable player, and I'm not saying he played poorly, but just a couple of occasions I was like, oh, come on, do better with that. Especially there was the one in the first half, play the ball inside to either Rashford or Rodgers, and it was really, really poor. So yeah, I think I'll go with that 3. Kamara second. I thought Ramsey played reasonably well and took his goal well. And his goal was interesting. The first time it was like in real time, it was fantastic goal. Like, taking that really well. On the replay, it's got so much space. It's like way too easy for him to burst forward in that position, and it's gone through the goalkeeper. So I think the commentator even said something like, "That's a really good finish." It's like, it is, but goalkeeper's basically thrown it in. So yeah, not to take anything away from him, but upon the replay, it wasn't as good as I first thought it was. But that kind of topped off he's had a good game because he's also scored as well. So he'd be my top 3 as well.
His goals tend to come when he doesn't hit it very cleanly, don't they? There's been a couple of those where they just go through butterfingered goalkeepers, but
they all count now.
Oh, they do. Yeah, they do. I'd definitely go for those 3. Rashford number 1, Boob number 2, Ramsey number 3, and some decent. Somebody there's mentioned Cash. I thought Cash was
decent.
Cash was decent as well. But yeah, it was pretty much a game where 6 and 7s out of 10 were enough to get you by. There are probably more 7s, to be honest. I don't think many people put a foot wrong.
Good.
But, it's interesting for the wider world. The commentators, I think it was Guy Mowbray, wasn't it, and Paul Robinson were just praising the depth of Villa's squad. And I think, people who don't watch a lot of Aston Villa probably were a bit frustrated when we ran away with it, because it stopped being a cup tie as soon as we took the lead, to be honest. But I think they can actually see that Aston Villa have, I'm not quite sure we've got two strong first 11s, but I don't think we're too far off it at the moment.
Yeah, we've probably got a strong, I don't know, 17 or something. Like if you look at the bench and you think there's probably 5 or 6 really good options that could come on here and change the game. Like you got McGinn, Torres, Marlon, Bailey, obviously not even on the bench. There's a couple of players missing, obviously Barkley as well. So I think there's a lot of good players to add to that. I think there is a really strong 11 or 12, a handful to supplement that, but not quite a full 22, not just yet. Maybe next summer.
Yeah, I'll tell you what annoyed me at the start. All them blooming balloons on the pitch.
Yeah,
honestly, mate, I thought we were playing for the Balloon Door, not the FA Cup at one stage. But it was really, like the commentator said, it must be a little bit kind of distracting for the players. It was distracting for me. I was just thinking, just go and pop them. Just go and, unless bloody Mike Phelan and Alex Ferguson are there and they're all going to go cowering at the sound of a balloon popping, just get it done, because it just, I don't know, it just really annoyed me.
I was going to mention at the start when you said about it being like a TV spectacle of old, like it felt Villa on BBC One already instantly just feels different, and the occasion that comes with it of the balloons and stuff. I was expecting the referee to maybe just call a halt for 30 seconds at one stage to just get rid of them all. I don't mind balloons. I saw a lot of people on social media saying like, oh, whose idea was this? I've been to Villa games where there's been claret and blue balloons, but it's never seemed to have got onto the pitch as badly as that. I'm just glad that nothing came of it, like that Sunderland beach ball moment from however many years ago that was, or a player. There was a moment when Dean was backtracking, like without looking, and there was a load behind him. I was thinking, oh God, what if he just falls awkwardly over these or something stupid like that? So yeah, I've never seen it as bad as that, but again, it just adds to the novelty of it all for me. I didn't really mind it.
It does, but at that stage, I didn't know whether we were going to win or lose. So I could just see somebody, a back pass bobbling or something like that, or somebody kicking the balloon instead of the ball. I'm probably judging people by my own standards rather than professional sportsman standards.
Tell you what, can I ask you as well? I saw a couple of people on social media talking about this, and I agree, but I don't know whether I'm in the minority with them. It's not. This is the wrong word for it. It's not a kick clash. But I found the first half, most of the first half, like really difficult to see with how bright it was. Is that my eyes just going bad, or were you the same?
I just shut the curtain in the front room because it was a glare on the screen. I didn't notice it was anything.
Obviously, they're in white and we're in clarets. That's not a clash by any means. But when the camera's so far away and you see the players' backs, we've got big white numbers on the back, white shorts. They've got white socks and shirts. It just felt a bit like so bright and dazzling. Like I can't quite get my head around who's got the ball, and all the balloons everywhere as well. I think that probably added to it. It's a bit confusing the first 10 or 15 minutes. Couldn't quite get into it. Am I a weirdo?
Well, it's funny you say that because the commentator, I think Rashford had about 3 free kicks, didn't he? I think it might have been the Luca Dean free kick, and he hit it over the bar. And he said, "Oh, at least he's got it in the right direction." I mean, well, what's he going to do? Turn around and kick it to Emi Martinez? He's a French international. You hope you get in the right direction. But in terms of your eyes, then have you had them checked? Are they all right?
No, I've got glasses, haven't I, for driving? I've got for long sighted, so maybe I should just put my specs on. Maybe I was sat too far away from the TV. Just one, I think. Is that allowed?
One for the audio listeners.
Some for HR as well, probably. Right, let's talk about Palace then to wrap this podcast up, shall we? How do you feel about that? What's your initial reaction as soon as Joe Hart pulled that ball out of the bag? What did you think?
I'm actually, I don't think I'd be on my own in saying this. I'm actually really pleased the way that the FA Cup has shaken up in the final rounds this year. We'll obviously wait and see the outcome of Man City versus Bournemouth. Who
do you prefer to win that, by the way, before we get into the Villa side of it? I actually feel like I'd rather Man City,
I don't really want to worry about who our potential final opponents are going to be yet. I think the fact is, well, probably Bournemouth, to be honest, because I'd like there to be. It's easy to say. I've said this before about the Newcastle win the other week. When we want people to challenge the elite and shake things up. I really do want that to be the case. But I want that to be the case because I want Aston Villa to win it. I don't want that to be the case because I want Crystal Palace or Bournemouth or Nottingham Forest to win it. So all this sentimental nonsense, if we don't go ahead and win it now, I couldn't care less whether it's Nottingham Forest or Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? But where it's at the moment, I think I'd like it to be properly up for grabs for a new team. I know we've won it before, for a new team to go and win it. So I don't really mind whether it's Man City or Bournemouth or whoever, because it's cliche, but on our day we should be able to go and beat any of the teams who are in it at this stage, including Crystal Palace. I think it's an interesting one. Somebody said in the comments again, typical Joe Hart. Why didn't he draw us out first instead of second? How terrible we are away from home. But listen, this is not delusions of grandeur. But if somebody had offered us this, I'm not going to say we'd have snapped their hands off because I'm not into that kind of violence. But if somebody had offered us the chance to have Crystal Palace in the semi-final and potentially who's left in it? Forest, Man City, Bournemouth, and who?
Forest, Bournemouth, or City?
Yes, of course. I was thinking Forest have already through, aren't they? It's a hell of an opportunity, Dan.
Of course,
It really is. Hell of an opportunity. We've spoken 5 minutes ago about having a squad who can compete on several fronts because we've now got the depth in there.
So they're still fit by then.
Well, yeah. Well, listen, the next few weeks ahead are gonna really take the toll on us. But I don't mind. It sounds silly, but if we'd have got Forest, we'd have been like, oh god, it's Forest. If we'd have got Man City or Bournemouth, it'd have been, oh, it's Man City or Bournemouth. We've got Palace, so let's just go ahead and win it.
There's a bit of an element, and me and John, I didn't include this in the edit because we got carried away. I feared if we basically spoke about how would we like the rest of the tournament to play out almost, and it was a bit like, I thought if I include that, you're going to get people saying, we haven't beat Preston yet, which is true, but now we have. I think there's a lot of almost levelness to everybody that we could play. There's pros and cons to all of them. If it's Man City, it's Man City, but they're not as good as they used to be, and we've beat them a couple of times in the last couple of years. Palace, they've had our number over the last couple of years, but ultimately it's mid-table Crystal Palace. Villa should again be beating that side because our squad is good, and we've got Unai Emery. This should be, Villa will be the favourites for their game, and if they get into the final, there's a chance we'll be the favourites for that as well. Whoever we come up against, because there isn't much between the teams. I think if it's a Forest final, a Bournemouth final, or a Man City final even, I don't think there's much in it between any side, and that's for the opposition as well. Palace will probably feel the same. Forest will feel the same going into their game as well. That if we get through here, there isn't going to be much between any of them. So, obviously, like I like the idea of Wembley being saved for the final, but for Crystal Palace specifically, I don't want to be playing at Selhurst Park. So I fancy us on neutral territory. We talked before about kit clashes. That semi-final will look strange, won't it? Red and blue versus claret and blue with the tifos and the scarves, or whatever we decide to do. It'll look very similar both ends. I'll need my glasses that day.
Yeah, well, just let's just assume it's all Villa and just out-sing them.
Yeah.
On the subject of which, maybe I've got one speaker on my telly that's louder than the other or whatever, but I thought Villa, even before we took the lead today, I thought Villa, you could... It's a bit of bias because my ear can detect a Villa chant better than be able to detect a Preston chant. But I thought the Villa fans were brilliant today. I thought it was, Villa chants from start to finish. And when I give them another half a dozen to sing, the ones I'm going to invent and give you on voice notes, honestly, mate, the Palace fans are just going to be leaving after half time just because I'm going to make their ears bleed.
To get away from it, yeah. There's a comment here from Chris. I need to look this up because this is a cliche, I think. It says, big wide pitch at Wembley Stadium will suit Villa's style perfectly. Is there that much difference in the dimension of the pitches these days? Is it wider?
I don't know. It's always had the,
That's been a thing, isn't it? It's a big pitch, so it's the game's open and you can spread teams and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's any different without checking. I'm
probably guessing now, and I am definitely guessing, and somebody could come back and say, well, actually, Matt, other than 3 millimeters width and 3 millimeters length, they're exactly the same. But to me, it feels like a bigger pitch than Selhurst Park. Now that might be because on Selhurst Park it's old school,
of the surroundings.
the stands are close. You know, there's not a running track. Well, I know there's not a running track at Wembley, but there's not a big kind of track around the edges. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll find out.
Yeah, I'll look into that because I think that's a bit of an old cliche that there used to be so much difference between the sizes of the pitches, but I don't think there is anymore. Another couple of comments quickly. I've lost the one I was going to go to now. I've missed it. Prediction for allocation. It's usually, is it like 35 or something like that? Generally, off the top of my head, 35,000 for each team, and then you've got obviously a massive amount of hospitality. It's usually, I always feel like when there's 30,000 season ticket holders, isn't there? There's always like a thing of, well, even if you've been to a couple of cup games as a season ticket holder, you should be all right for the criteria. I'm going back now, at least 5 years, the last time Villa were back in Wembley to the allocation. So I would guess it's like 34 to 36,000 or something like that off the top of my head.
Well, it holds 90,000, doesn't it, Wembley?
And it's not half. It's
no, it won't be split in half because half of it, you know, a third of it, or you know, 20% of it. I know that's less than a third. Probably go to corporates, won't it? I'd have thought. I don't really want to jinx what the allocation would be in case it means in case I say aim too low and it cuts me off. So I'm hopeful that I'll get a ticket. Same. Two more comments quickly. King81 says, and I'm just trusting their research here, both pitches, so this is Villa Park and Wembley, are 105 metres long, and Villa's is 68 metres wide, with Wembley being 69 metres wide. So a metre wider. Is a metre wider, so what, half a metre on either side, big enough to say that this will suit Villa style because it's a bigger pitch. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, I don't think, the olden days where some pitches you could get away with them being a lot smaller and cagey and feeling tight. What are you asking me?
I don't know, just good research, mate. Good research. And one final thing I wanted to mention:
50 centimeters either side makes the difference. Is that what you're asking me?
Pretty much, yeah. I think the answer's no. Very finally, I just wanted to do a bit of housekeeping, but almost only because we got a comment come through, which I believe is called a super chat. Now, I've seen a lot of things like the adverts on YouTube have changed recently. So if you're seeing a lot more adverts from us now, or a lot less, that's out of our hands. Like, it's all an automatic process now that YouTube decides when the best place to put adverts in is. And I've seen a bit of a change over the last, I don't know, 2 weeks or so. And we've got super chats on like live stream. So if somebody's donated £2 to leave their comment, and it'd be like prominent. So I now feel like a duty to have to share those comments. So please, if you're going to do this, keep them clean. And yes, lads, up the Villa, it just simply says, I fancy us against anyone at Wembley. And I agree, that is kind of how I feel about it. This was a little bit early if you're trying to find it in the chat. It's bright blue, which you can't miss it. I don't know where that £2 goes, mate. Who's donated that? It certainly don't go in my pocket. It just goes in the company's pocket, I think. So if you're comfortable with that, thank you very much for supporting the podcast. But I agree, as a kind of a regular thing. Regular? Zach says, share regular comments too. I do. I just don't flash any up on screen now, just in case we get into hot water by sharing something I shouldn't. We do reference the normal comments as well. I think how.
I think Yes Lads Up the Villa should have his own permanent slot. To be honest,
£2. Yeah.
Start the bidding at £2.
But it is right though. I did feel like this is now a situation where, it's Palace, and my initial reaction was that's the one I didn't want just because of recent fixtures. But I am probably a little bit swayed by the Selhurst Park thing, and realistically, Villa going into a one-off game with a chance of getting to Wembley again for an FA Cup final to play for. You know, Crystal Palace is not an opposition that Villa of 5 years ago or 10 years ago when we're last in it. You go and play Arsenal and you think, we haven't really got much chance today. I know that was the final. Chelsea in the semi-final in 2010, they're obviously a lot better than we are at the moment. This is going to be very difficult for Villa to get anything. When I'm hopefully travelling down to Wembley on whatever day that is to play Palace, I wouldn't have that feeling of, these are hard. Like, they've got some good players, but Villa on their day should be able to beat anybody at Wembley, as Yes Lad says. So I feel pretty content with it, albeit a little bit nervous.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, like you said, like we beat Liverpool in 2015 in the semi-final. Probably shouldn't. There was a difference between us and Liverpool then. Man City in the League Cup final in 2020, there was a difference. The difference is now, Dan, if we play at our best, we will beat them.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll go nervous there. I'll go to Wembley nervous, thinking, I hope we produce, the performance that we're capable of. I've said it before, that if you're going to win trophies, you've got to beat the best teams that there are left in it. We're down to the last four nearly when Man City play. We're down to the last four, so there's going to be decent teams in there. There's not going to be any pushovers in there. So no, I'm just, I've said it all along, and I think I've seen this in the comments as well. That
was it a super chat? 'Cause if it wasn't, you're not allowed to read it out.
Was it what? Sorry.
If it wasn't a super chat that's been paid for, you're not allowed to read it out.
Oh, right. In that case, I'm just going to pay. Where do I donate? You've thrown me now. I can't remember what it was.
Sorry.
What was it?
I don't know. It's in your head.
Oh, I think it was about Emery. We need a cup, and we need some silverware now. That kind of tangible success. Another one that wasn't a super chat. God, I'm doing myself out of cash here. Another one was saying, would you prefer to win the final or beat PSG? I'd prefer to win the final.
Yeah, definitely.
Got it in the bag. I'd prefer to win the semi-final first. And you would prefer to beat PSG before we get to the semi-final. All of it, all of the above.
Yeah, let's do both, shall we? I feel pretty good about it. Apparently, you can show the comments up. So I'm going to press this, see what happens. Oh, there it is. I told you it was in blue. Yes, lads, £2. I fancy us against anybody at Wembley. Please don't spend your hard-earned money on us, by the way. We'll read the comments if there's some good stuff in there. Such as, what's Matt's usual Sunday tea from Gaz Oaks, especially after a large Sunday dinner? Have you done your Mother's Day plans yet? You going for a curry, did you say?
I went yesterday to just Frankie and Benny's in Rubery with my old dear and my dad and my kids and my wife.
Nice.
Today we've been for a nice little stroll. There's like a little artisan market in Lightwoods Park, Bearwood.
Right, yeah.
We've been there. I didn't have anything to eat. We're going out for a balti tonight. Ooh. So it wouldn't be my usual Sunday tea. I do like a bit of lamb. I do. I like
nice.
A bit of lamb shank. A bit of meat sauce, roast potatoes.
What about a lamb in a curry though?
Possibly,
that's quite an underrated meat in a curry, a lamb. But that's what I like to go for.
To be honest, not that you'll see any signs of it, but I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight at the moment. So, what's the healthiest option for me on a curry menu?
Probably not going.
Yeah, well, that's not an option, I'm afraid.
No, I don't know. You could give it a rest for one night. Get back on it tomorrow. Just one final thing to wrap up this podcast. We will, like I said, there's a lot of content coming up, so we play again on Wednesday. We will do a Q&A tomorrow evening. That might be a live stream, by the way. So stay tuned for that. If not, please get some questions in the comments after we stop live streaming. I'll include some of those as well, and I'll put a post out on social media. We've got the post-match Brighton. We've got Forest next week. You've done a podcast with Darren Fletcher again, which will be out this week as well. So lots of content coming up. Just to end this one, because we will talk about some of these things in more detail as we get closer to it. Bob says, have we ever been the away team at Wembley before? I was thinking that when the ball was drawn out. So I don't know what we've been before, but all I was thinking of, what kit will we wear? We'll be white, won't we? And Palace will be in their home kit.
Presume that will be it. I mean, so what is it? It's which dressing room you get, which end of the ground you get, and which kit you wear.
Yeah,
I'd have thought. So
we've been in the West Side a few times, haven't we? But I don't know whether we were the home team.
Right, Ali G.
God's sake! All right, that'll do. I think. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning into this post-match podcast. Appreciate you tuning in, as always, when there's plenty of other Villa podcasts to tune into. I won't keep referencing the Super Chat things. I feel guilty now for even bringing it up, but yeah, it's YouTube. Matt, thank you for joining me, as always, as well. We'll be back tomorrow with a Q&A, so do come back for that as well. Probably should explain that for those that are listening only. Matt Kendrick has got his free cup that Chris Heck sent him personally. He delivered it by hand. Has got a post-it note on it saying Aston Villa, because Aston Villa's name is on the cup. All right, thanks everyone for watching along or listening to this episode of the Can't Be podcast, and we'll see you Monday night. Bye-bye.